John Tory is here, former mayoral candidate and co-host of Focus Ontario. Good morning.
Good morning.
You've worn a lot of hats in your career, so one thing I want to ask you about is you were chief of staff for Bill Davis. You worked on Kim Campbell's campaign as well. So from that perspective, John, what would you be advising our mayor today?
I think he should just do what it looked like he was doing yesterday, which is, as best one can, carry on with business as usual. He's got this 14-day period during which time he will launch an appeal. So most of the work, I think, is going to be done by his lawyers. And I think if I was him, I'd say as little as possible about this. Carry on with business. The council's meeting. He's got his football championship tonight. That's a big deal for him.
And the Grey Cup parade today.
That's right. And he should just carry on with that, because in the end, what else is he going to say or do? The judgment, which I have here, it speaks for itself, and it says what it says. And he now has to try and appeal that. I think that will be challenging for him. He has to try and get a stay so that in the meantime, while the appeal is going on, he can stay in office. And I think that's what his lawyers should be focused on. He should say very little, carry on with business.
Do you think he'll be tempted, John, to try and spin this?
Well, of course you always are, but I think if you're smart, what you do is have other people spin it for you, first of all, and secondly, there isn't too much to spin here. In the end, I mean, the judge says himself, look, if you had sort of kept your, lips zipped up, Bill Davis, the man you mentioned, used to say you never get in trouble for things you don't say. Yeah. And I think if he'd done that in the first instance, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about this. So I think that there should be little spinning done about this. What's to spin? It's a court case under a law, and now it's up to an appeal court to look and see whether the judge got it right or not. It isn't a matter of public relations, it's a matter of law.
Well, even Christy Blatchford is saying that there are people, it doesn't sit well with people that an unelected official is making a decision about an elected official. But what else can you do in this situation?
Well, Christy and I chatted about this on radio yesterday. I mean, the fact is, though, the law under which the judge did this was passed by elected people. And that law says if you are found in conflict of interest, you shall be removed from office. That was passed by duly elected people. And if they want to change it, they can do that too. And I happen to think the punishment in this case does not fit the offense. But having said all that, it is what it is. So that's why I say it's now a matter of the law. And you can't really spin when it comes to the law. I mean, the court will decide.
You can play that us and them thing on
you can,
any issue.
You know, and look, I saw the Global News poll last night. 16,000 people participate, and 46% of them said, yeah, I'd vote for this guy again. Well, if I was him, I'd be pretty heartened by that, because I'd say, after all this, 46% of people still hang in there. Right. So, you can spin that kind of thing and have your agents out there doing that, but by and large, keep your head down. Just do your job for the next 14 days. Let your lawyers do their job, and the universe will unfold as it should.
John, that's what I wanted to ask you. This may be a matter of the law, but as you know, this will be subject to all sorts of individual interpretations. Do you see Rob Ford coming out of this more popular than ever?
I don't know, because I think I noticed yesterday when I was sort of taking calls and listening to people on this that people are fatigued with all of this. It isn't just the conflict of interest, it's the accumulation. Last week it was defamation, the week before that it was something else. They're fatigued with this, and they know there are big issues facing the city, whether it's on transit and congestion or the finances or whatever, the disadvantaged neighborhoods. So I think that it's hard to know that. I mean, I think people, if they were given the choice right now, do you want to continue with this or not, might say no. On balance, we think he was doing some good things, but we think this movie should come to an end. And so, but the bottom line is that depending on how you interpret the judge's ruling, it may not matter, because where it says here, I decline to impose any further disqualification from holding office beyond the current term. If that means Mayor Ford could not run in a by-election, then we're talking about him not being able to run for 2 more years anyway, in which case somebody else runs and he's gone, and by 2 years from now in politics, that's an eternity, and people might have even forgotten about who he is. I don't mean that offensively to him, I just mean that 2 years you get to be a footnote sometimes.
Well, let's say he puts his head down and he does go to work over the next 13 days and he follows some of what you're saying. Does he have a chance with this appeal?
I think it's limited, because I think if you read through this judgment, which is, pages and pages and pages, the judge was very careful to say, here is why I applied the law the way I did. And he went through every possible, argument made by Mr. Ford in court a month or 2 ago as to why he should be, in effect, not removed from office. And he went through and sort of surgically rejected each of those. And don't forget, a court of appeal doesn't rehear all the evidence. They don't call everybody in to sort of say, let's do it all over again. They simply look and ask this question: did the judge make a mistake? And if they find the judge didn't make a mistake, then the decision stands. And so I think in this case it'll be a tough uphill. The burden is on Mr. Ford to sort of show that the judge made a mistake, and I think it's going to be tough. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's tough.
And I just want to point out before we have to wrap up that you, I believe, started your radio show yesterday saying that you weren't going to take calls about a left-wing conspiracy as far as the judge is concerned, that you know him and he's a fair guy and you feel the law was applied fairly without, because this is all we're hearing now is that this is
look,
a
people can be
conspiracy.
mad about Mr. Magder and Clayton Ruby being the people that filed a complaint, but the law provides for that too. Anybody, you could file one, I could file one. The judge in this case was a former law partner of mine. He is a person that is beyond reproach in terms of his integrity, as judges are. I mean, these are not people who are involved in politics. They're applying the law. If you want to blame somebody for a law you don't like, blame the people who passed it, not the judge.
Right.
He's applying it. Judges can make mistakes, and that's why we have appeal courts. And so we'll see. Mr. Ford's entitled to an appeal. We'll have one, and the results will be what they are.
John Tory, thank you so much, co-host of Focus Ontario and the host, of course, of the Live Drive with John Tory on News Talk 1010. Great to see you.
Thank you.
6:50.